Hey guys, welcome to my garden. My husband and I were off on a trip this past week, so we were gone for a few days, and when I came back we had a lot of stuff come into bloom and some stuff that's getting really close. So I was excited to walk around my garden and just take some time to kind of take in what's going on and notice what's blooming, what insects are around, what our critters are up to, the birds and the bees and everything else. So I thought it'd be a good time to do another mindful garden tour with you. So thanks for joining me. I'm just going to take you around and show you what I notice. A pretty large patch of black-eyed Susans here, and they are just starting to open up. And these are one of my favorite plants. They look so pretty. They almost look like they're glowing because they're like this golden yellow color. So I'm really excited for those. It also looks like some of my annual salvia is starting to fill out and bloom. These I started from seed indoors in the early spring. The yarrow is starting to bloom too. I love the foliage of this almost as much as I like the blooms. It's just very interesting looking. So my little center island of plants is not blooming yet. This is an aster, so that won't bloom until fall. And it's sort of surrounded by phlox, which is, it's getting close, but it's not quite there yet. So the phlox will be blooming soon. I noticed that my bee balm started to bloom as well. And this is the raspberry wine bee balm. This is one of my absolute favorite summer blooming perennials. The color is just amazing. And I love that the leaves also have a touch of this maroon raspberry color. We have a fly hanging out here too. Lots of insects over here checking out the bee balm. I also like this cultivar because it's very tall. This is like 3 to 4 feet tall. Hummingbirds love it too. I always spend a ton of time on this in my videos, like every year, because I just love it so much. It's so pretty. I have a bunch of orange lilies blooming. Although these are very pretty, they aren't my favorite plant because they are pretty aggressive. So they form tubers underground and they just multiply and multiply. So I'm in the process of starting to dig them out. I did have a huge clump of them over here too, but I dug that out last year and I planted some Mexican sunflowers that I also started from seed this spring. And this is my first time growing these. I wanted something that got pretty tall and bushed out a bit, but was an annual. These are pretty tall. These are like going on 4 feet tall, I would say. I'm waiting for it to have a lot more blooms on it. It's looking pretty good. Oh, there's a hummingbird. I think I scared it off. Yeah, if you're trying to attract hummingbirds, bee balm is a winner. Have some speedwell growing over here. I have my little container pond. I didn't do a ton with this year. I don't know, just in my area I have a hard time finding aquatic plants, and the ones that I do find are extremely expensive. So I picked up some water hyacinth. These look like they're doing pretty well. They're starting to reproduce a little bit and spread out. They're supposed to flower. That hasn't happened yet, so we'll see. And then I just have some hornwort floating in here to help keep the water clear, and it's doing a pretty good job keeping the algae down. I also have a little solar fountain, and I put a log in here just so that if any animals fall in, we have a lot of chipmunks and squirrels and things like that, so if anything falls in, they can get out. And the birds also like to land on here and drink and take baths. I like this better than using a shallow bird bath because those get dirty really quickly and you have to rinse them out and clean them all the time and refill them constantly. So I like this because if you have the right types of plants, they will keep the water relatively clean, and I don't have to worry about refilling it all the time. So this is my what I use as my bird bath. I have some volunteer sunflowers. I did not plant these. They just popped up, so a bird must have planted them for me. Kind of in a random spot, but I'm gonna let them go and see what they look like. They look pretty happy. We're still working on our deck. We're making progress, but we still have wood and construction stuff everywhere. So that's why there's wood over here. We were painting, using that as a tabletop to paint. Here I have a quick fire, I think that's what it's called, a quick fire hydrangea. I'm trying to grow this in a pot. I've never grown a hydrangea in a container before, but it survived the winter and it looks like it's doing pretty well. I have it over here because it was getting a little too much sun over by the deck. But my plan is, once our deck is finished, I'd like to put it up in the corner over here somewhere so it still gets shade, but I can enjoy it on the porch. So that's my plan for that. Let's see what else we have going on. My hostas are starting to bloom. Some of them are already blooming, some of them are just sending up shoots. The birds are very active today. We have some more orange lilies. I did transplant some of the ones that I dug up around this tree because the grass will sort of contain them and keep them from taking over. And it's nice to have a little bit of color under the trees sometimes. They might not be getting enough sun though. They look a little stretched. This is one of my front gardens. This really filled out when we were gone. Lots of native plants in here. We have quite a bit of milkweed that the milkweed beetles are enjoying. The coneflowers just started blooming. I love coneflowers because they are super tough. They can take some shade, and the bees love them, the birds love them, the butterflies love them. They're just an all-around awesome plant, and they're really pretty. I have some, this is native yarrow, so this has a white bloom. It has a pretty light scent. And that ferny foliage. I can never say that word right. And we have more coneflowers, and these are all from seed. These were self-seeded, so I started with some of the coneflowers over here, and the birds like to eat the seeds, and you know, the seeds get moved around and start new plants. So it's kind of fun to see when or where new flowers are going to pop up. I also have some crimson clover in here. I sprinkled a little pollinator seed mix in here just to fill in some of the open spaces, and that was one of the flowers in the mix, and I think they're really pretty. And we also have some false sunflower. And this coneflower is really bright. Some of them are a little bit paler. I'm not sure if those are the ones that self-seeded, and they just turn out a little less bright. Let's check out the other side. I need to shear back the catmint. This is pretty much bloomed out, starting to look a little rough, so I'm going to cut all this back, and I should get some new blooms, and then it'll give some of these other plants some space. I have some Liatris about to bloom. That's another native in my area. And these coneflowers back here are volunteers. I did not plant those. Those just appeared this year, and they look really pretty. This is a different variety of bee balm. This one only gets maybe like 1.5 feet tall. I'm not sure what it's called. Let's see if I can get in here without crushing any plants. The Shasta daisies are looking really good. I'm gonna have to start deadheading these before too long. These coneflowers are much taller than the ones in the other bed. I'm not sure why. I thought that was interesting. I don't know if it's the amount of light they're getting or what. I also have an Annabelle hydrangea that was here when we moved in, and the flower heads on these just get humongous. They're so huge that they just flop over. I also just have some bachelor's buttons that have seeded themselves around. Those are a nice annual to just throw in a garden to fill in some space. They're super pretty, and they'll just keep seeding themselves around. I trimmed back my rose bush, so there are not any blooms right now, but it's in the process. So we'll have more blooms on that soon. And then this year I bought another native plant from my area. This is called horse mint. So this is actually considered our native bee balm. You can see it doesn't really look anything like the typical bee balms you would see in a garden center. But you can see how they might be related because they have these flowers look similar. They sort of have that tubular shape. My camera's having a hard time focusing. I just like to have as many native plants as possible, so every year I add one or two or a few new native plants, and this is one of the ones that I found this year. I also think it's interesting how the leaves near the flower are actually a pink color, and then the stems are sort of a maroon color. So I'm excited for these to get bigger and spread. Let's see, what else do we have? Oh, I'm going to take you over to the other side of the yard and show you some of my other flower buds over there. Okay, so I have another variety of yarrow over here. This is a nice, really bright yellow. And this one gets pretty big. I also have some shrubby St. John's wort that is super tough. And the bugs really seem to like it. I believe this is another native in my area. Some more catmint that I need to cut back. I need to cut back these daisies. This is more another aster that'll be blooming in the fall. And we have lovely Japanese beetles. These arrived last week. If you're into gardening, you know that they're the bane of our existence. So in this other bed, this bed pretty much mirrors the one we were just looking at. I have more yarrow in here. For some reason the plants in this bed don't do as well, and this one is a lot weedier. So I'm not sure what's going on with the soil over here. I need to do some work on it at some point. I also have a butterfly bush in here that is just starting to get some buds on it. My camera doesn't want to focus. Some lovely weeds, as always. Let's take a quick look at the vegetable garden. This really took off when we were gone. The squash are looking really, really good. Have some melons there. Squash there. I think this is butternut squash, and then we have a row of acorn squash. And we have zucchini, so everything is flowering. I thought we had a yellow squash in here, but I can't see it now. Everything has flowers on it, which is good. We do have some eggplants. So this is a different variety than we've had before. This variety of eggplant stays pretty small and thinner, so we're hoping that it'll be maybe a bit crispier for cooking, because sometimes the larger eggplants can get kind of like soft or soggy when you cook them, so those will be interesting to try. We have a bunch of little peppers starting. Some cherry tomatoes that are almost ready. Our peas are pretty much done for at this point. We also have some green tomatoes. These are our paste tomatoes. We have some work to do weeding. We've let things get kind of out of control. We started putting some weeding and putting some mulch down, but we need to keep going with that. There are always a million things to do. Let's see. We have, yes, our green beans are flowering. So that's exciting. That means we'll have fresh green beans soon, which is amazing. So delicious. I think that's pretty much it. Our far bed there is the lettuce. That's bolting. The kale is a little overgrown, kind of bitter at this point. And I don't know what's going on with the cabbage. I feel like we try to grow cabbage every year, and sometimes it works out and sometimes it just seems like they take forever. So I don't know what the secret is, but they're not looking great. They looked a lot better last year. So I don't know what that's about. I think we did have an odd spring. It was cooler for a long time, and then it went from like 60 degrees to 90 degrees really quickly. So a lot of our cool weather stuff just didn't get a chance to do as well. We do have some good sized carrots in here. We have some beets that are getting close to being ready. And we do have some heirloom tomatoes that are getting started. So we have Cherokee Purple. We do, what's the other one that we do? Can't think of the name of it. We have another heirloom tomato that we always grow. So things are coming along in the vegetable garden. I think that's pretty much it for today. It was very exciting to come home and see so many new things in bloom. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to put them below. I hope this video encourages you to get out into your own green space. Even if you don't have a garden, go walking in a park, forest preserve, or even if you grow things in pots on a apartment balcony, it's all good for you. I will see you in the next video.